Okay, we'll open the special select board meeting for Wednesday at 9 on May 25th. Entertain a motion to accept the agenda as may be amended.
So moved.
Any reason to,
Just,
Do
there's no
something.
Board of Liquor Control today.
okay. But we don't really need to change it. then.
No,
We
it's
just-
just-
No,
we're gonna
I got
just skip
something I'm
over it.
gonna throw underneath other business, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, all in favor of the agenda as presented, please say aye.
aye.
And how many, we just have the 1 minutes, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
I didn't have anything with the minutes.
no. So, no select board member concerns. We got no citizens.
Well, you have
Make an
to
approve, you want to
the-
approve the minutes just
Oh,
officially?
Make it
okay.
official.
Motion to approve the minutes.
All in favor of the minutes of May 9th, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. I don't, there are a couple things people mentioned to me, I mentioned it to Chet, it's not anything that belongs on here.
Okay,
I'm just passing things on.
okay.
And nobody's,
Nobody's
Zoomed in.
zoomed in, nobody's here.
There was no board of liquor control.
yep. So we're,
So we had a meeting last week with our consultant. The consultant had set up the meeting. Inadvertently, I had missed the fact that Chris was going to be there as well, which is most of the meetings now. We have 2 select board members at. It was not properly warned, but it was a meeting that was entirely, would have taken place in executive session and no action was taken. So we have to announce that that happened. And we will not let that happen. I've already warned the next 4 meetings that are scheduled that our consultant is setting up, and I will be warning all of those regardless, in case somebody does come. So we will just warn all of those meetings in advance.
just looking at the bottom, are any of those meetings before the June 13th meeting?
Yes,
This
That-
says
that should be-
that's why I put the regular meeting. It got to the point where we're adding so many meetings in the middle, there was no
Okay.
way to keep
No,
up
that's
with
fine. I
that
just-
thing, so.
Yeah. I know it says regular meeting, just
Yeah.
if we're talking about making sure they're
Yeah.
noted, they're,
There's one meeting tomorrow that's a special meeting, that is the VEPSI meeting. It's warned as a select board meeting because we will be attending, but it's actually a
We've
VEPSI
been
meeting.
invited to it.
Right. And then on June 1st and 2nd, there are 2 TIF meetings. It's a Wednesday and a Thursday, that those will be,
So
those are
those that-
already warned.
So those that are not here because this meeting was called and it's 9:30, 9 o'clock in the morning or whatever, you know, if we can just, put in the minutes, Megan, just to make sure that it clearly states that what you had just said.
Right,
That's
okay.
all. And I'm just saying this so Megan hears it when she goes through
And
it.
Polly and Eli just came on.
Okay. So,
Yep,
okay.
yep.
okay. All right.
So we, to be fair, Eli, we've been ripping through this here. We already gone, and Polly, we've gone through citizens' input. Do you have anything, Eli?
They want to bring in,
You'd have to unmute yourself if you did.
yeah.
You don't. Do you have any questions as a citizen, Polly?
Nope, I'm all good, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Okay, so I was not at that meeting, so if you guys are going to approve the meeting, or is it just an
No, it's just,
announcement?
we're basically, there would have been, minutes
There's
would have
nothing
just
to
said.
approve. We went into executive session.
Well, I didn't know if,
Yeah. No,
It was
that's.
just- it was improperly-
because we had to notify, was
It-
it something that had to be?
Yeah, it was just improperly warned, and we have to, we're
Okay.
just we're making sure that it's.
We're slapping the town manager's hand.
Correct.
No, it's actually Chris's fault. He showed up and he wasn't expecting.
Well, no, actually, he was on the list. I missed it. I missed it. It's actually my miss, because when she did the invitation,
Blaming you, Chris.
I mean, actually,
not here.
I say this,
No, I know
when I
he's
saw
right there.
Chris walking in the building, I went, oh, crap. And not because Chris was there, but because
Okay.
I hadn't warned the meeting.
Okay, so you have, is this, is something going on with the solar canopies?
Well, what we discovered was, at this point, we looked at it as it was an equipment purchase, but it's treated differently than equipment purchases that are highway-related. So it will ultimately have to go to the voters. So what we're going to do is take out a 1-year current expense note until we can put it on the ballot. And we were taking out the same amount of money. It's not changing that. We're just doing the format. And so we need a current expense note that'll be for $204,271 at a rate of 2.5%.
So this is where my question is coming from. We had solar panels in front of, it was Chuck, myself,
Yeah.
and Steve. Chris was not involved in any solar. And we had a proposal from X Solar Company,
Right.
and then it told us that what the rate was going to be, and the board approved it
Right.
to happen, okay? And it had a rate. Did the solar canopies actually, I'm kind of forgetting, did they ever really come in front of the board, or did we just take it that it was,
No, it came before the board. There was two separate ones. What happened was the original two were the two on the buildings.
right?
Those are PPAs.
Right,
Okay, and they were basically, we're paying the monthly fee, it's a lease. They said that they didn't want to include the canopies as part of the lease, that lease program, that we were going to do financing, and we had done it all through what's called VEDA, Vermont Economic Development
but did the
Authority.
board have a number in front of them?
Yes.
For a bond or for a note
Yes,
with an interest rate?
yes, and that was through VEDA, and it went to 4.25, that's why we switched to this.
But why did it go to 4.25 if we were,
They were estimating it at that time, when they finally finished the canopies and VEDA sent us the paperwork, that's why it was over 4, which was last October.
okay, so that's where that's where I'm lost on this, is
Yeah.
because usually when you install solar,
Float it
there's a
up.
contract and it
Right.
states.
Well, the contract stated was the purchase price, and they were giving us the financing secondly. We had a contract to purchase, because we've already paid for this.
So I'm past that part. So the next part that I'm getting is that, you know, we're borrowing a note at what percentage today, 2 point whatever, for 12 months, so we can get in front of the voters to get it approved. And next year, I mean, interest rates, the Fed's gonna jump in another 50 basis points this next week. They're talking about raising it, I mean, I don't know why. I understand it's $204,000. You know, I guess the next time, if there's a purchase thing in front of me, you know, and it's gonna be something that would be so far out for them to install it.
Yeah.
I think we should have had in front of the board, because we're not micromanaging, but I think we should have been told when they were coming in to do it that our rate is X, okay? And then it had to go to the voters. But interest rates next year could be 6 or 7%.
Well, based on the conversations we have, I would anticipate we're putting this on the November ballot. And my conversations with them is they still think we're gonna be able to stay under the 3. You know, at this point, we'll see where that goes, or around 3.
Now, are we making payments over this time? So are we
No,
actually
basically, what
asking
we're
for
doing
that?
is we're building up the cash in the fund that was gonna make the payments, that we will be able to reduce this
When's the
204,000.
when's the first payment due?
1 year from when we sign the note.
If we don't sign the note, when is the first payment due?
We've already paid the bill. The solar panels are paid for. We're now putting it on the financing. When VEDA started coming in last November, the numbers were way off.
Yeah, I'm just, you know, this is contracts, and
Okay.
I just, to be honest with you, I would have never, you know how hard I was on the solar panels. And for those movable ones along, I was underneath the impression all along that this was going through a solar contract, okay? And it was a set price, and now I'm being told that
It was always going
I
through,
approved something that I didn't know what the interest rate or the cost or whatever was gonna be until they installed it.
we knew what the cost was gonna be. That was all approved by the select board, the
We
cost
didn't
for
know
the
what the
solar.
cost was gonna be, because the cost isn't just the cost of the panels, the cost is the total cost
The
of
financing was, we were getting it through the Vermont, that was what they had recommended, go through VEDA. The panels weren't put in till then, and the interest rate was not acceptable, and that's when I came back to the select board and said, I'd like to move over to Mascoma and change how we're financing it.
So could I ask a couple questions since I
Yeah.
wasn't present? first of all, we have paid for this already, and out of what account did we pay for this?
No, we paid for it basically out of the general fund in general. We didn't, it's charged to the solar canopies right now, and we were just gonna put that money back in when we get the financing in place.
So we've known for a time period already, over a year,
No,
that we were going to need to do this, and we could have corrected this at the last town meeting, no?
actually, the solar financing came in like February at 4%, because they told us they didn't want us to pay for, they finished installing the solar in November. They said, don't pay us until after the new year in case there's the stimulus packages were offered, and they said, look, don't pay us, we're fine with that, wait a couple of months, and then you do your thing with Vita, because if the construction is technically completed, they didn't turn it on until January.
Who is they?
They is Suncommon. Suncommon did not turn the power on until
So I would
January.
rather, before I went and got a 12-month note at whatever rate, if they, being whatever, Suncommon, were instructing us not to pay, then tell them that, they instructed us, and we're waiting for our November vote to see if this thing goes through. What happens if the voters vote no?
It's already paid for it. What it's gonna do is it's gonna reduce our fund balance by 240,000.
What if the voters vote no on solar panel canopies?
They're voting for the financing, not the canopies.
Canopies are already in place and
No,
paid
no,
for.
so-
But I'm saying, we weren't asking for approval to purchase the canopies. We had done all of that. We had already approved the amount of money. Okay, the issue is we're
Who
saying, do we
approved
want
the
to
amount of
go?
money?
The select board.
The select board doesn't have the final say, it's the town voters have the final say. So I'm trying to take this to a point where it's like, we or you can't just buy things and then later on say, we already paid for it, you're stuck with it, now approve the financing. If you put on a ballot and say to finance this, and they say no, what are you gonna do?
I will talk to the attorney, because he's already been involved in this. This is how he suggested we go about it. Because we had it all in place where the financing was going to go under the equipment concept.
We have everything in place until the voters vote.
Correct.
The voters haven't
The error
voted. What if there's
is-
a bunch of people out there that don't like the solar panel? I have people telling me, like Butch came to me the other day and said, I got a notification that there's these 2 huge solar systems on River Road. I can't find them. I said, one's on top of the highway department, one is on top of this public safety building. I said, so we did our job. We wanted to hide them.
Right.
But on River Road, a lot of people were against seeing something at whatever. So the voters haven't had a say on this, but we bought them. And we paid for them. And I'm asking you, what's the difference if we just tell Sun whatever, Common, you instructed us to wait. You instructed us to wait because you thought there was gonna be a better deal coming through for, I don't know, the infrastructure bill or something like
We
that.
were going
or
to
that
we
up.
were going to be able to take advantage of the funds that happen with, like if an individual goes and puts in a solar, you get a rebate.
Yeah.
The towns can't get rebates typically.
But they told us that.
Yes.
And that didn't happen.
Right.
Okay, so we're underneath their direction, all right? So I'm sorry, but I need a vote from the voters before I'm gonna vote yes on borrowing money for something on that. The next one for the current specimens for the TIF, we've been up front all along, and this is just a surprise. I
Well,
thought
it's a surprise on the financing. We have been talking about this for a year and a half, and it was all part of that same purchase price. We had all of the expenses in there and the estimated costs. And the timing at the end where Vita changed their interest rates is what messed this all up.
So the voters approve of this expenditure?
No.
Not as a line item individually, no. They approved, we had it in the budget for the expenses to pay for the financing, but at the time, we were going through a different financing mechanism, the price got out of line, and now,
So basically, you're saying what we did is we went out and committed to all kinds of stuff here, and we're now asking the voters to kind of clean up the finance mess for this. We had in the budget to pay interest on it, or the expense of it, but we don't, now we're saying, all right, it just seems like we're kind of doing this backwards.
The way it ended up, that is correct.
Okay, so I don't know what these, I don't want to drag into a bunch of other stuff, but I don't know what these panels, it's costing us $5,000 a year to finance these, okay? And then when I look at what you sent us over for budgetary stuff, we're spending more power right now than we've ever spent.
Well, that's technically, it hasn't been, there's an allotment that has to go to the golf course that hasn't gone yet. A portion of the electric bill goes to the golf course, because both of the main systems, the ones at the public safety building and at the garage, are portioned to the golf course. And that bill has not been written yet.
What bill has not been written?
The cost of the electric.
Okay.
And it's also all being charged because we have.
How long has the solar panels been put up at the town garage?
They finished last summer.
Okay.
Well, I'm just kind of looking at this and I'm seeing that our
Our
electricity.
electricity bill is higher. And
But
you-
it's-
But
you
even if the
spent-
solar is doing it, it's higher.
We had budgeted $6,000 and we spent $7,000. okay?
Which one are we on?
I'm just looking at the town office, okay, which has panels outside it. Then the electricity for the public safety building, we budgeted 6,000, we're at 12,000.
Well, and some of those are other places that aren't getting the power, and some of that has to go over to the other. They have not done the allocation to this point. It is not costing us more. We're actually paying what we're supposed to pay. But I will get
don't
that.
understand I don't understand how it's being thrown into this category, and I'm supposed to sit here and decide that solar is a really great way to go because it's gonna cost us realistically another $5,000 a year somewhere on this, okay? And we've spent twice the money on our power?
I was underneath the impression that if at my house, I'm using $10,000 worth of electricity a year, and I end up putting solar panel in, I'm still $10,000 a year, and instead of paying the electric company the full $10,000, I may only be paying the electric company $2,000 because I'm paying the interest and the loan of $8,000. But what Chris is bringing up here is it seems like my $10,000 bill in this instance has gone up to $15,000. So
Well,
how
if you
am I
look at the golf, if you
saving?
look at the golf, it's 6,000 under. We haven't moved the allocation over as to where the charges are going, because the power is generated to the 1 meter, and then there's an allocation
What I'm
as to how
getting
it's
at is
playing.
that I still should only be paying $10,000. If my bill was before $10,000.
I'm saying townwide, I will give you a townwide,
Okay.
a townwide
And this is just
estimate.
another, when we started putting these solars in.
Yeah.
And we put them in like 2 winters ago
Mm-hmm.
over at the place. I asked for, on a quarterly basis, a report on what it's producing. We've gone through a full summer.
Okay, I will get you that.
So I need that.
Okay.
I mean, I'm saying here that I can't make it, but it's just basically, I make a motion to move forward with the current expense note for the solar panels, and I admittedly state that this thing went past my scope of what I'm supposed to do as a select board member. Chris was not here, and so I wouldn't even vote on it, Chris, if I was you. It's just Steve and I, it went through us. So I'm
still not satisfied, Chad.
No, that's fine. I will get you, for the next meeting,
But
I will,
understand, I put solar panels on my house and I paid for them up front.
Right.
Okay? Very similar to what you did here, or you're asking us to do, because we're gonna spend $200,000 for all of them. But the actual expense coming out every month from, that I would charge off to electrical at my house is less than it was. not more.
Well,
No
the
way.
bill I just signed for the town hall was like $25. Like, the issue is, that's the case, but that did not get turned on until January, so we had the first 6 months that were regular power. I will give you a complete accounting of all of the power usage and the comparisons and the townwide comparison of what we were paying before and what we're paying now. And we can put this off till the next meeting if you want to do that.
We have to do it. so.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's there, but like I had asked, I would like to see, I said quarterly, but when we're in the summer months that these things are producing power, I want to see monthly on these finances of, this is what we would have paid, and this is what we're paying to the financing of any of these systems, and how that money came off of the electric. The way I'm reading this, as Chris is reading it, is that we're actually paying higher than we've paid in previous years.
Well, I know we're under quite a bit on the golf course, because I said we haven't transferred all of that over yet.
But it's not showing yet because you haven't
Well,
transferred it over.
right.
So I'm going by data that I have in front.
And I will, well, if you look at the golf course one, you can see that they're under. But I will give you a complete accounting.
Okay. So,
Yeah,
Steve,
we have a finance guy, Chad.
Yeah, no, I will charge him with it. We had this conversation 2 months ago when this all took place, and he was saying, I don't know, the bill's a little high on this side. I said, well, we got to do the transfer over, and I gave him the spreadsheet of the breakdown of how much of each of the PPA payments goes to what accounts. And that has not taken place yet.
So my wife is an accountant for a company over in Rochester, and there's a family that owns the business. So I'm gonna put you in the position of the family that owns the business, and then Mark is the person that is the finance person. The family that owns the business does not tell my wife how to do the books. My wife does the books. We hired a finance person on.
Okay.
My wife does the books, and my wife works with the auditing firm directly. And if the owner has a problem, the owner has to go to my wife, because that's who it is.
Right, okay. No, and that's correct, and I will go through and just say, here's what we need to have, and give him, make sure he has everything he needs, and then he can go in and break it all down.
Okay.
And then you'll have
So
an
My
account.
motion is to approve the current expense note for the solar canopies, and Megan just put down that it went over my head, and we'll have it on the vote in November.
Is this to actually put it on the November vote? Is that
No,
what we're?
because
No, this is to get this note now.
this is
because we
just,
have
this is,
To get it
this
now.
is a temporary note to
Okay.
carry, that basically
So
just,
this is the 12-month,
yes.
okay.
Yeah, so my motion is to move forward with the current expense note. That's going to take place, I guess, after today's meeting. You're going to sign it,
They're gonna, after today's meeting, they're gonna send me the documents, and then we can sign it.
okay?
Okay.
For the town manager to move forward with the current expense note for the solar panels,
Okay.
solar
And
canopies.
anything else?
No.
Okay, all in favor of moving forward, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
So now the next one is the
TIF
current
note?
expense note for the TIF, which, in the same way, but we've been upfront saying everything and going to meetings and saying we're gonna spend X. That's the only difference between the two of them. This kind of got me a little thrown off.
And, yeah, it threw me off when it all started happening around the end of the year, and that's when I came back and we said, we're gonna look at Mascoma and look at financing it differently, and then, once we got through all the documentation, it was
We're
like,
done
hey,
with
this is the
solar
way we gotta
canopies.
go.
I'm
So I-
tired of them. I'm saying the TIF, we've been upfront,
Yeah.
and we've been
And
saying,
also, we are, we're borrowing this money. These are expenses that would come from the TIF and be repaid once we see, hopefully gain approval.
right.
So,
But we've also been told, Chris, that some of these things, like the surveying of the road that the town actually owns, would actually have to be work that we'd have to do anyway, okay? So some of this stuff is already in there. But we've also been upfront saying that we have to do some studies on the water, and we've given the prices out or whatever and going through there. And we've also said that we're doing the other, so that's it, so I'm
So-
just gonna make a motion to.
Well, before you make the motion, the only thing I wanted to remind everybody, the note for the 1.8 million, well, and that's what we had estimated at the time, but that's close to what I think we're gonna need. The question is, do you want to pick 1.8 or 2 million? Because the one thing I did get approved by Mascoma is doing this the way we do the golf course. We're not taking out $2 million, we're taking out what we need and what we've used as a line of credit, basically, that says, we're only gonna pay for what we use. We don't have to take it all out. This is a maximum amount, so just
that-
want to pick
so-
the
A
amount.
little higher than.
I'd rather go $2 million,
Yeah.
because it's a draw, and
Right.
it's a line of credit, and you're only being charged that rate at there.
Right.
To be honest with you, when it comes down to, this is also just a one-year note too, though, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And we're,
And
at
what
current,
is the rate, Chet?
it's 2.85.
Okay. And is that secured or is that a floating rate?
No, that's not a floating rate. That's what he's estimating from the day, like if I call him today and said it's good, it's if he can set the rate today, that's what he's
So
talking
line
about.
of credit for a year, Chris, at
Okay. I
2.85.
just want to make sure,
Yeah.
the rate's not gonna move,
It's not a variable rate for the year. The rate is fixed once he sets it in the next day or so.
See us go a little higher and not have to go back and look for money at an advanced interest rate.
What are you looking
We're
at?
only paying for what? Just maybe 2.2.
I think we're good at 2.
You're good at 2?
Well, I
We
was
were
I
also
was thinking
saying a
1.8.
year, we're gonna have all the answers back from Vepsi within hopefully the
Yeah.
next month.
No, my thing is, if we don't take it, we don't have to pay anything for it.
Yeah,
But
so why don't we just do I'm gonna make a motion to move forward for a current expense note. It's not specifically just for TIF, okay? It's for $2.2 million, all
Okay.
right?
Yeah, because what I estimate, currently what we've spent is just below 400,000 to date. And we are, between now and the vote is where I estimated the 1.7, 1.8, and that's where it is. And typically, we get up to 6 draws on it.
Okay, so my motion is to move ahead with a current expense note for 2.2 million. It's not specifically for TIF, but the majority of it is, just in case there's something else that comes up.
And this way we can lock in today's interest rate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Chris, you okay there?
I'm good.
All right, all in favor of town manager moving ahead, excuse me, $2.2 million note, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. So we have some April financials?
Yeah, basically, from the town perspective, we are, like I said, we're typically tracking pretty close to where we're supposed to be. Expenses are up in things like sand and salt and fun things like that. And also, we're a little over, we're actually not over budget anywhere at this time. I think there's a couple areas where we might really be bumping up against the budget. We're doing well. We actually have a very good cash balance, which you can see in the treasurer's reports. We're holding our finances well. We're at $8.5 million. We just, actually this Friday, we're making the $5.2 million payment. So we still have between $700,000 and $800,000. And part of that $700,000 or $800,000, we have not received the third payment for the options tax. And the other thing is the $204,000, the current expense note is money that we've expended that we're basically putting back into the reserve, into the balance fund. So we're probably looking in the $500,000 or $600,000 of additional revenue. So I think we definitely aren't going to have any issues with making through the year and getting, without having any cash issues. And
I wouldn't go spend that 204,000 until we get a yes vote from the voters.
Well, it's just basically putting it back in the general fund.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I wouldn't go spending.
Well, we're
it
not,
until-
yeah, it is what it is.
So
So-
I've got a question. Are you capable of making changes online right now here? If I had to do something on here?
Yes.
Can you go to your comparative report?
Which line item?
And we go to the police department on expenses.
She did not move the 12,000, Tommy.
Well, let's not say she.
Well, me.
We've
It did not get
instructed you.
moved, yes.
Okay, legal, there's $12,000 still there. This is the third time I've brought it up.
While we're on police as well, and I had time to review all this, why do we keep budgeting for $10,000 in traffic ticket fees and we never even come close to that?
And that's he's been basically keeping it flat, assuming that we're going to get closer again, but with COVID, we didn't write the
I think we're
rules.
going the other way.
Yes, I would agree.
So
So-
I think that that's something we should be more realistic about.
Now, just so you know, when I make these changes, when it comes out of NIMRIC into Excel, it doesn't have all the formulas in, so I'd have to put those back in to make the changes.
It's just
I'm
so, I mean, where are you putting it to?
It's going to town manager's legal, so I'm gonna highlight the one I just made the change.
Just, and then, I mean, give it to your finance person and
That's what
tell
I'm gonna
him
do
to
when we
make
leave here
sure
today.
that he does it.
And the other question I had, just while we're near it on this one, is zoning fees are up to $27,000 for the year.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave that to executive session. Underneath contracts.
You wanna do what?
He wants to talk about it in contracts to
Okay.
executive
Contract
session.
and legal. Polly's smiling. So, where did I read? I wrote a note on something else, yeah. Where is the telephone? And this is just funny, so, the other day, the phone lines went down. Nobody knew who to call. I was in, working. I had them grab New Horizons or whatever phone bill, so I called and we got the internet and the phone back up. But the bill was like $2,200 or $2,600 a month.
Yep.
And then when I go into expenses here, where is phone for
Office.
town office?
The number is up on the town office, but
No,
it's,
but-
we took it out of all of the other departments.
Well, that's not, because no, the public safety has there's other places. I'm trying to find which page is it on, because I just went through this, as you could see.
Well, I looked at telephone and we've been budgeting 13,000 a year. Last year, we spent 32,000 year to date. We once again budgeted 13,500 into 2022, and we have again spent, now we spent 39,000.
So, I mean, we've got this building, the library, town hall, and the golf course. Just get them separate VTEL lines with internet. It's probably actually even faster than, but,
Like, there was still
when you
5,200.
say that you put it all into it, but I'm going to the public safety building,
Well, that's where we're charging it to.
tells me
Yeah.
$5,200, and it's budgeted $52, but then it says actually paid
I'm
$165.
not sure what that got charged there. That's an error
Okay.
charge.
But it was the same,
Who's our telephone provider?
New Horizons, when we went to, this is the change that we went to voice over IP.
but that was supposed to save us
It
money.
was supposed to keep us around the same thing and make it work better, because we were having all kinds, we were gonna have to update our phone system, it was dying. And this was, we chose to go this route versus,
I'm trying to
the other.
find that right now. Where is the 13,500?
it should be under
It's
town
our,
office.
Town office expenses.
Yeah, it's the third line down.
Which page?
Like 4.
From the back or from the front?
What it is that the first page, the top of it is not, it's split on 2 pages, so you don't see it. It's above office equipment.
It's the fifth page from the front.
And this also includes the golf course. That
Okay,
has to
so,
be pulled
yeah,
out.
so in 21, okay, which ended June 30th of 2021, we budgeted 13,500 and we spent 32,090, like Chris is saying. And then in FY '22, FY '22, we still got 2 months left,
I gotta break that down the same way I gotta break down the solar for you,
you
to
know?
make sure
But
it's all
we're
the same.
sitting here,
I mean, 40 grand.
well, I would say, that I would back off of that, Jim, and I would say, we're spending $4,000 a month for phones
Yeah.
and internet?
And it's supposed to
phone-
be voice over internet.
Right, the phone,
When I
well,
look,
bill
the
you
funny thing
saw-
is, when I looked at the phone, it said there was 416 phone calls at X amount of minutes. I mean, I have never, I haven't paid per minute since 1990s on a cell phone, when it used to do
We're not
that.
paying per minute on the voice over IP.
But our
My
phone
concern-
bill is, a phone bill, if we continue, this is April.
Right.
So we have May and June, and if there's $2,500 a month, there's another $5,000 on top of this. We're paying over $40,000.
I gotta
for
break this all
phone.
down for you, in the same way I gotta do the solar.
And when I called New Horizons, which is kind of funny, they had to then call Comcast, because Comcast is the one that's providing the service. So New Horizons is some offshoot, so there's gotta be a markup between Comcast and
No,
New
actually,
Horizons.
New Horizons is the company, and they use Comcast for their internet that runs the voice over IP. That's their.
I'm telling you, yeah, I'm telling you, when I called them up for phone out and internet out,
That's because the modem went
they had
down.
to bring, no, it's not because the modem went down. They, the company, the ECS was out on our phone pole, okay? And they were making some changeover. They came into the building, you had the day off, they came into the building and they said, we will shut you, your internet and your phone will be down for 35 minutes. And then, so nobody has anything, and then 45 minutes later, look outside, the truck is gone, but there's no internet up and there's no telephone. And everybody's sitting around, and I was like, well, who do we use? Who do we use? And then Mona pulled up, oh, New Horizon. So then I got a copy of the bill, and I made a phone call, and I got New Horizons on the phone. I said, my phone is out and my internet is out. And he said, hold on, Jim, while I get Comcast on the line.
Right, because.
They sent a Comcast van out, and the Comcast driver fixed the phone and the internet.
Correct, because they're providing the service for the phones through New Horizons.
Okay.
And all I'm saying is, if in 10 months we've spent just shy of 40,000, I don't know. I think we gotta kind of look at that setup.
Well, the 2,500 a month is what it's supposed to be, the 30. We were paying like 28, 29,000 before we
Yeah.
installed the system, so I gotta find that other 10.
We're telling the voters we budgeted 13.5 for it. We spent 40,000 already.
I mean, the police department, telephone, internet, $1,326.
I will get the entire breakdown and get it and find out where the issue is.
And this is where it's and the fire department, telephone, $1,461.89 actually paid.
And there's no listing for the golf course for the phone.
The golf course is probably on its own separate one.
The golf course is under NHC as well, and that
What I'm
money-
getting at is I just added over another 3,000 there on top of what the town hall is. And then the golf course is how much? How much is the golf course paying?
Yeah, I just think we gotta look at these. I mean, it's just a big
We
number.
have Pro Shop Internet TV, but there's no phone.
Where's the phone for the?
it was always mixed in with all the utilities. So I will find out where it's going.
Okay. I mean, it's possibly that for the library, hall, the golf course, and the public safety building, we're paying 50 grand a year or more. And that just sounds absurd to me with internet and telephone. It just
Well-
seems crazy.
I will get you a report for that.
Okay. So, I mean, it is what it is, so I make a motion to approve the,
I got a couple more
Okay.
questions, Jim.
Okay.
Public safety building, we've been budgeting, for propane. Now all of a sudden it jumped up to just shy of 17,000.
That's this year's costs. Like the stupid prices that we got
did we
this
lock
year.
in?
We're not
Why
locked, we pay a percentage over rack is the way it's always been done. We need to be locking in going forward.
And then
That was how it's been done for the last
price at home just
25
went through
years.
the roof like 5 months ago.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, right now, I'm able to lock in pricing for the coming year.
Right, and that's what we're trying to do. We have never done that with CV Oil in the past. It's always been a price over rack. We've always been playing low numbers. This year, it's been all over the map.
Price over rack.
I don't recall the number off the top of my head. I'll have to. get it
Probably
right
charging like 30 cents over rack,
there.
but,
Rack right now is actually, rack is, I don't know, just that number just, I mean, maybe they're going through more propane, but it just doesn't, it just seems.
Well, that
like-
was the other thing, is this is really the first whole year that we bought propane for one entire year for this building. And we're like, we weren't sure, we used the number from I used the garage number to compare it for a comparative sized building, for the budget, but this is a more actual one. I mean, right now, I'm looking at the garage is 3,500 over, and that's never been over. And,
but I mean, when these companies say like you pay over rack, propane futures, which I always unfortunately track, okay, the highest it was like in February was $1.60, okay? So if he's charging you like $3, he's charging you $1.40 over the propane.
no, we're
future.
paying like $1.90, $2. Last year, we were paying like $1.40.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, the numbers are way up.
So I mean, I locked in for this current year that runs out in November, like $1.72 or
Right.
whatever.
'Cause we
But
have-
that's just 12,000 gallons.
Right.
But
And this is.
you were probably down, what, about $1.40 or something, Chris, maybe, $1.50 for this current year?
$1.20 something.
Oh,
Yep.
okay.
Who'd you go through?
That was a year ago with, Dead River.
Okay. Because Dead River and Irving, I wanted to get quotes from right now.
I think we should be putting out the propane and heating fuel as out
As a
for a
package.
bid.
Yeah.
And put out how many gallons we're using
Mhm.
and see what we come in with or whatever.
Yep.
Or if you just want to come in, I'll let you join into my little club and get guaranteed rates, and I'll save you $1 or something a gallon. And just, no, but I have 5 or 6 friends' houses, and we come in, we say how many gallons we're going to use.
Yep.
We locked in, I think, $1.72 in like October, and it's, yeah, because it ends this November, ends October, it's a 1-year thing, and everybody gets their own separate bill. If you got, I don't know how many gallons you're using, but,
Okay.
if we can't do it that way, I'll include you in my little
Well, I mean, I think we can,
propane club.
I mean, I think this year it was just, we never anticipated this level of increase, and, we're over by about 40%.
If you're paying under $2, you're getting a lot better than some other people that are getting $4 or $5.
Yeah, we're paying right around the $2 range. It might be a couple cents over, a couple cents under. We haven't been paying extreme numbers. It's just that last year, we were paying like $1.29 for half the year and $1.35 and stuff like that.
So you're about 30 cents over rack.
Yeah. I mean, that's,
So what I would do, Chad, if you could, one, find out what we're currently paying.
Yep.
And then you find out what our yearly consumption is.
yep,
And that'll help do it. And then, I have, between Jim and myself, we have enough contacts, and Steve too. I mean,
Yep.
it's like, somebody would really want this business.
Oh, there's no question. Actually, the one thing that is, I know that it was about 15 years ago, they went out to bid one year and they moved to some other company. I believe they were over in the Castleton area. And one of the issues we ran into, because the one thing CV Oil does is they're always keeping we have undersized diesel fuel tanks and undersized gas tank, and they were keeping us topped off, and my understanding is they were running out, so we would have to have a conversation about, they're gonna have to come here more often and make sure we're staying topped off. Because that's probably the only area that is of any concern of switching, is level of
You're
service.
just switching propane.
And that may be, the question is, do we want to look at the entire fuel bill? I mean, we buy about $70,000 worth of gasoline or diesel a year.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a big number.
Well, we said that right. You say we bought 70,000. We might be buying 140,000 next year.
Right.
So, but what it boils down to the gallons and the size of our tanks and the frequency to fill them.
Right.
I would agree, as much as I am always looking for, pricing, et cetera. CV has a great diesel program.
Yep.
Maybe not in terms of pricing all the time, but they do blend it very well. And your instances of gel up and all those other issues they're much better at it. They're very good at doing winterizing diesel.
Yep.
Regardless of it, we gotta look at the price.
Yeah, no, and that's it, because right now, to date, we've bought $59,000 worth of diesel, we have $70,000 in the budget. But last year, because the rates were so much different, we had $75,000 budgeted, we only paid $42,000, so we've already paid $17,000 more
Yeah,
this year over last year.
yeah, it's not changing.
No.
All right, so I make a motion to accept the Town of Killington comparative report for April.
Okay, all in favor?
Second.
Aye.
Any questions on the treasurer's report?
The treasurer's report, I don't think so. Just when we were out to lunch yesterday with Kevin, and then Ed Fowler was at the Green Mountain National Golf Course. If Ed's listening in here, as I said, every monthly report we get on the treasurer's report, Ed, Pro Golf Shop, it still shows the $350,000, whatever reimbursement due to the town for prior year's startup expense. He was asking, he couldn't find it. And then also saying that the golf course this next coming year is paying some of the bonds.
Yes.
And I'm not gonna say the specific amount right now, because I don't have that number off the top of my head. But they are starting to pay some of the bonds, and they are doing good. And they have $262,000 in the account right now in the pro shop, and they have $19,000 in the restaurant. And there's only $78,000 of all that is restricted. So they have $200,000 in the bank. It is the end of May. They have a $200,000 loan, or $250,000.
$250 is a line of credit.
$250,000, a line of credit, which they have not had to touch at all.
Right.
And I don't think they're going to.
Right now,
That's great.
if everything goes like it's going right now, we will not have to touch it.
Okay, so,
Fantastic.
And that'll be the first time in.
Ever.
Yeah, I mean, every year we've had to go into that, and I used to take the $250 out completely and still struggle for cash. So we're in a much better cash position.
okay. So a motion to accept the treasurer's report is written.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The Green Mountain National Golf Course report of April. The numbers look great. It's just the format. When I go into memberships on page 1, season passes, last year they had they put down season pass as a total number up, and then they put down member dues M and member dues A. I don't know what the difference is.
Yeah.
A&M. But then it makes it look
I
like
don't know what
they're,
the A is.
you know, so
It could be midweek.
it could be midweek and it could be all
Right,
or anytime.
yeah.
You know, just straighten out there.
Well,
You know,
the thing is, the season pass is a 7-day pass.
Okay.
Yeah,
You know, and the same thing up on top on the green fees, it's like
yeah.
special green fees,
Right.
negative $1,920. That's really special. You go and you go and you get paid to play golf. That's my kind of thing.
I think it would be interesting just to find out, you know, understanding the business a little bit more. You know, instead of looking just to see, okay, where seasons pass is at, like, how many of these are renewing and how many of these are new ones? As well.
Yeah, and actually, what I would anticipate, because typically when June comes around, David will be coming to all these and he'll be giving us those numbers just to say, you know, here's how much is, here's what we're doing, and I think we'll get the round counts and things like that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, just to better understand the business, that's all.
yeah, and I know that Mark has been working with them trying to get a lot of these numbers arranged correctly. And if I'm not mistaken, the special greens fees item was an item that there was some account, the way it was accounted for incorrectly when it happened, and there was an accounts receivable. And then when it got accepted, it didn't get applied correctly in the POS system, so it ended up transferring out, but I'll confirm that as well.
But when I go to expenses on the goods, cost of goods, second page from last, the first first 3 line items, and then the 5th and the 6th, the 7th, the 8th, they're all negatives.
Well, the reason they're negative, if you look, what we do is they put the budget in the header account, and then we do the sub-accounts. So the expenses are coming out of the sub-accounts, like shoes is minus 2353, okay? But the total is, when you look at the budget, was 54,705 for that line item. It covers all of those items, they're just expensed out individually. You on that, is that the right page?
I'm on the second to last page.
Is it start with cost of goods sold pro shop?
Right, and so the second line item tells me shoes.
Right, but look
And there-
look at the line item above that. It's the way NIMRIC works. What we do is we put the budget in, and I do the same thing on the highway trucks and things like that. We put the one master number at the top, and then we track the expenses for all the subcategories separately. So when you look at it, it's actually based on the bottom. So 54,705 is budgeted. All those other items are expensed. Oh, but they're negative, which means they came back. I will confirm that.
That's all I was questioning. I mean, we
Okay.
got shoes.
I just, I went to
Once
another
again,
place.
like the special golf fees,
You got paid to
we
buy
got shoes and we got paid $2,353.
Right.
I mean, maybe there's a return or whatever, but I don't know.
Yeah, I will get
And
that.
that comes back to, I think, what Chris just said, maybe to understand it a little bit better, but there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's about $14,000 worth of, I don't know if they were returns. I don't know if it's shrinkage. I don't know what it is.
They also weren't open in April.
Well, that's the other part, you
Yeah.
know. Well, no, this is up until the period 10, so this starts from last year.
Right.
But
But if it was- if we-
their year is closing in 2 months.
Right.
And they're they budgeted $7,000 for shoes.
No, that's last year's actual.
Oh, okay, last
The
year.
fif-
actual.
There's no budget for the individual line items.
Okay, they budgeted total for the pro shop, $393,000.
Right.
And they're only at $186,000.
Right.
So are they gonna buy $200,000 worth of stuff
And it may all be coming in.
May and June?
It may all be coming in now, like they may have orders that haven't arrived yet.
I just
that we
need to
haven't
know
paid
what those negative
for.
numbers are.
Yep, got it.
Yeah, it's just better for us to understand it.
Yep.
I mean.
No, I get it, and I
The voters of the town.
missed
Better
the
explanation.
question.
I'm wondering if special greens fees is when they bring a group in, because they don't necessarily charge full
Yeah.
for the group. And it could be as simple as that, but we need better
Well,
explanation.
yep.
But maybe special green fees are, and we've allowed them, they may be charging, you know, when we say we're gonna give X amount of tickets to KMS, we're giving it to the school, we're
I don't
giving
think
it
they're
to
doing
whatever.
that with those.
I don't know.
Right, well, we gotta get you a report
But
for that.
talking
and
about
also-
that, you just quirked me, whatever, my mind here is school's graduating and we said we need, so.
Yep.
We gotta go grab those tickets so they
And
can have it
also,
for graduation.
The other thing is I just got, Monday, I got a list of capital items that they want to expend, and I will be bringing that to the next meeting to talk about that. What they haven't provided yet, which I will be talking to David today about, is making sure we get an accounting for the lease payments for the next 5 years included in their 5-year plan, so that we can see how it affects the overall capital expenditures versus what the capital appropriations are.
And I don't wanna just see because when this capital thing started 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
I don't wanna just see the future 5 years. I want them to know, to show us what they allocated the past since
no,
they
we need-
started this.
That's correct. We need to see when because they gave us the five sheets for the 5 years, and we want to see, this is what you told us, and show us actuals with it, and then look at the
Yeah,
plan.
But the board was very clear saying, we're allocating $100,000 to capital there each year to you for these things. But don't think every year you have 100,000, because if you got yourself into a 5-year lease and there was 30,000 there, well, next year you don't have 100, you have 70. And then if you get us into another 30 the second year, the third year, you don't have 70, you have 40.
And when they originally did the 5-year, it had that accounted for, and I just want to see how it compares to actual. We got to plug in the actual numbers and see where they are.
Okay,
And see if there was any anomalies in that.
So motion to approve the golf course financials as of the end of April 2022.
All in favor?
Aye.
Do we need to do pro shop treasurer's report?
No.
Is that included?
No, we did the whole treasurer's
That's
report.
pretty much the whole thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So we have Eli and Polly. Do you guys have anything you want to bring up that we haven't done, or that we may not have
No.
explained?
No, thank you. I'm on my cell phone. I don't do this well, so I've been on and off, but a good meeting. Thank you.
Thanks, Eli. Is Polly good?
Polly, you good? She's good.
All right, thumbs up.
So, other business. You have any other business first? So, as a interim zoning administrator, and the rest of the neighborhood that rats each other's out, it's come to my attention that the river shed deck is not the 50-foot setback from their property line. We sent a letter out to, and we had our surveyor actually do a survey while he was going through there. One portion is just 36 feet, and the other section is 44 feet from the property line, and we have a 50-foot setback. We sent a letter out to get her attention, the owner's attention, and it did. They replied back within an hour. And I met up yesterday. And what we're doing with this TIF district is we're looking to protect our 50-foot right-of-way, because we need to make sure that we have sidewalks and everything else.
Our right-of-way is 66 feet in that area.
Well, okay, but we need,
Right.
whatever,
Right.
we need to protect our right-of-way.
Correct.
Okay? And they can't encroach from whatever, all right? So, they were underneath the impression that their property line ended or started, whichever way you look at it, at the pavement of Killington Road, all right? It's not. We've done this with multiple businesses, as I said to her, Brian, Phil, Chris, Howard, whatever, we're not getting into, we're doing our surveying. The planning commission, after all this is gonna come in, is looking to decrease the
Front setback.
front setbacks onto the Killington roads. So we've done it for other people so they could have outside stuff. I'm gonna make a motion right now that we allow the deck to stay for this year until we gather all. I said, instead of going to the DRB, as we've done for others, the tent set out by the golf course for that, what's the name of?
Trailside?
What?
Is it Trailside?
Trailside and other places. You know, we've done this. So I'm gonna make a motion that the select board allows the deck to encroach at this time until we find, for this year.
We're extending it for the same COVID reasons for outside usage, and, right?
Right. Okay, so.
But he's saying they're encroaching, so we need to say it's okay.
Yeah, no, I'm saying
It's
for the
okay to
year.
encroach
Yeah.
the right-of-way, the 50-foot right-of-way for this next year, okay? So the town can protect its
It's right away.
right-of-way, so.
So it's just it's a limited certificate of occupancy? Is that how you're terming it?
I'm not even giving it a certificate of occupancy at this point. We're going to do just a select board saying, just like the tents and some other things, you know.
You're deferring enforcement for a
We're
year.
deferring enforcement on the deck for 1 year, so they don't have to look over their shoulder. I made it very clear that if the survey comes back not in favor, because I don't know where the road is, I really don't, and that's why we're doing this work, that we may have to come back and say the deck has to be, you know, and so, and she's clear with that, and she's happy with that. She's got her fingers crossed on, you know, the other part.
I'll follow up with them. We'll move on with this one, and then I'll kind of ask some other questions as
Okay, so my motion is to allow that one to go forward.
Okay, anything else, Chris? No?
Not as it pertains to.
Not on this.
Not on this one.
Okay, all in favor of
River Shed.
the, how did you phrase it?
Well, we're deferring enforcement
Deferring enforcement.
for the 1 year
this year.
as part of the same COVID extension we've
Okay.
given everybody else.
Okay, all
On
in
River
favor,
Shed.
please say aye.
Aye.
Alright.
And Chris, you had something?
So I guess I kind of go back and, you know, things are fragmented, but, you know, years ago, a lot of properties would come in under site plan review for different things and get approved. And I could say Rivershed was one of them because I was involved with it back then, but, you know, trees had to be planted at a certain caliper and the building, you know, walkways and parking and all these things, and it seems like, you know, there's been a number of properties that kind of have, all right, we're gonna clear this out, we're gonna redo this and redo that, and I wonder how this all pertains as it goes towards the, you know, planning commission now? I mean, is there a site plan review process? How?
Yeah, so I can answer that, Chris, and I can tell you that there is currently like 3 or 4 properties as the interim zoning administrator. Site plan review is still happening or is supposed to happen, and it's supposed to come to the DRB. There are certain places in town that I guess don't realize what they're supposed to do, I'm gonna say it that way. But I have at least 6 or 7 files out on my desk right now in the cases that you're talking about, that they've done some things that should have come to site plan review, and they have not. And a couple of them are coming forward now with their site plan reviews. They've already done the work. I don't know if the DRB is going to approve it. I don't know if the DRB is going to say now you have to put in this screening such as what you're talking about, Chris. I think that's what's gonna happen, but I actually, just like Darrell actually works for the planning commission, in this interim zoning thing, I actually work for the DRB. They are the ones that instruct me and say whatever. It's kind of rough on me, but I have to go by those rules. So I find the enforcement or the activities that have to be enforced, and then I take it step forward and bring it to the DRB. I can tell you there's at least 7 that I have right now, and 3 of them I have written, and by the end of the week, the other 4 will be written to these folks.
Yeah, just, and and I'm just being honest, it just seems like there's a disconnect, or maybe it's been your predecessors, Jim, that, I don't know, that let it go this way, but it's like, I didn't even, realistically, I didn't think about any of this until, I saw the Mountain Sports Inn, and I was like,
Well, there's one of them that has not been notified yet, but the folder is pulled out on my,
yeah, no, and I'm just, because I'm sure back then they brought a site plan review, said, and, we need to build this you have to have this screening, and back then, it was, what it was like, guy, fence here and trees here.
well, that's the other funny part, Chris, is because, like, when I sit down with some of these people, they come back at me and tell me that they feel like it's being directed at them and they are being targeted separately. And I was like, if anyone should feel like that, I have probably been treated just as much as you guys. But if you want to come back to my office, I can show you that there are these 7 or 8 files that are on my table. And each time I go to one of these guys or these properties, they rat someone else out. It doesn't end. It doesn't end.
I will just say to you.
That's why you're up to 7.
That's why I'm up. I was on 1 and I'm up to 7 by going
No, I'm not understand I'm not questioning you.
Yeah.
What I'm questioning is how this town got to this point that they thought that was okay.
Well, I can tell you, we met yesterday. I had a meeting for short-term rentals with the 2 attorneys, Jim Barlow and Kevin Brown, Chet, Darrell, and Josh Maxim from the Division of Fire Safety. It's not just for short-term rentals. We're looking at anything that's a public building. And I think one of the issues is that our zoning regulations are kind of loosely written that people think as long as they're not adding anything to their building, they can do whatever to their landscaping. They are new owners, even on the one inn that we're talking about is actually the Sun. It's not the original whatever, okay?
Yep.
You may not be aware of. It even goes deeper. That is an Act 250 permit attached to that property, okay? It has a 1R number to it. So I think that's some of the stuff, but we're getting a lot of new, great people moving into town. They're ecstatic, they're enthusiastic to be moving things forward and everything. But our plans are kind of loosely written in the first place. So we're looking at, just like what you have to do for your buildings, if you make changes structural, even inside your buildings, Chris, you need to go to the Division of Fire Safety, correct?
100%.
Okay, we're getting it that it's gonna have to be with the new fire chief and the deputy chief or whatever, that they are going to be tagging along with the Division of Fire Safety and checking on all short-term, because a short-term rental is a public building in any of them, and we're also gonna make it that the town is saying now, any landscaping, any inside work or whatever, you will need to come to zoning for
And
a
just
site plan.
Just so you know, in the planning document, we did a couple years ago, I think Preston might have done it, there's a do I need a permit fact sheet? And maybe we need to put that in the paper or something and remind people, like, it says, do I need a
would agree with
permit?
that, chat, and just make people,
Yeah, because we did do one, like, nobody seems to know when they need a permit, and we drew a fact sheet, and it's on the website, but if you don't go to the website, you don't know.
I
So
personally
need
think
to
we should
publish
be
it.
putting something out there, publishing, and it says, do I need a building permit or a zoning permit? If you're asking this question, yes, come to the zoning administrator.
Don't get me wrong, I think that, the parking lot at, Mountain Sports Inn looks great, okay?
But the screening for the neighbors might have been in there for,
Yeah,
I get it. I get it.
Yeah, oh, I know you get it, guy. So.
Anyone who amends a site plan has to you have to at least go in and
Yeah.
say, even if it's an administrative approval, you still gotta say, what are the constraints?
Yep.
You can't just go do.
So, in the DRB, when we have our next meeting again, it's the third Thursday of the month, what I'll end up doing is including the select board with actually the month's worth of work as far as permits and zoning violations. So at least you can see that it's, these properties that you drive by are actually being,
And,
not targeted, but,
well, that's the one thing, 'cause
approached.
we actually talked
Noticed.
about it back when the short-term rental program was starting. And it's like, should we be publishing all fines, fees, like, should we be saying, here's, there used to be a police blotter, a fire department blotter, and you'd have zoning, like, are there violations that have been out there? Are there site plan reviews? Like, should there be and this is just, the issue we've had is somebody to be able to take on that, to compile it, to get it all listed, but, it is one of those things that informationally might start to help people understand what's going on.
it just really, I think it's a lot of new people, and then I think it's said that you don't have to for certain things, and we just need to come out, and, I don't know if it was specifically the individuals prior to the interim now, but I just think it's, everybody has their own way. When I spoke to the owner of Rivershed, they were a little annoyed at the email that went to them, and I said, well, I was trying to get your attention, and said, yeah, you did. And I said, but I did put in the letter that we are not gonna be fined at this point, so, you gotta hold, because some people just ignore you. So I like to get their attention and get to me, and then, it's turned out to be okay, and then hopefully it continues to be okay. But there's just a whole bunch of,
I don't think any of this is malice and intent.
no, it's not.
And back in the day.
Well, maybe 50% of them.
Yeah, back in the day, though, not to jump on him, but Jeff Garish was famous for, I'll just build it and ask for forgiveness later, whether it was at the Night Spot or Casey's, or, he was notorious for doing it.
Yeah.
And move forward, and wait till he gets caught or fight it in court or whatever, and I don't think that that's what people are doing. I just don't think they're thinking about it.
No, they're not. So we're trying to bring that all together through the fire chief and Division of Fire Safety. It's just like Josh was here yesterday with us, and, we've made it clear to Kevin Brown when he writes up these new zoning regs for us to bring forward, which is gonna have to come to the select board to be then handed back to the planning commission to move. This self-certification for 8 or under, it's a nightmare. It's being wiped out. You're gonna have to get your place certified by the Division of Fire Safety and the fire chief. It's not every year, it's as long as it's your ownership or whatever. And when I was walking out the door, Josh said to me, David Green, when he loves that you guys are doing this in the town of Killington, but when he had heard that you were doing self-certification for 8 and under, he just shook his head and said, that's not gonna work. And I was like, Josh, when we're sitting here having these conversations, if something's not gonna work, then you tell us. Don't keep quiet and keep us happy.
Well, no,
But
and,
we're evolving, Chet.
Right.
And so I wouldn't find fault with what was done. If
No.
you asked me, I was against the whole process, okay?
Yeah.
But now, understanding where we are with this in this town, we need this,
Yeah.
okay? And unfortunately, the state should be doing it as well, okay? And it shouldn't have to be a town issue.
Well, that is one of the other things, because there's a house on Dean Hill Road that is a 7-bedroom house, And the previous folks, the house failed Division of Fire Safety, okay, totally. It needs strobes and everything in bedrooms, okay? And they were allowed to rent it and just state through previous whatever, short-term rental people, saying it's a 7-bedroom and it only sleeps 8 because he was self-certifying it. I don't know how one self-certifies something when they're told that it doesn't pass the Division of Fire Safety regs. And then Josh went on to say that he's actually written fines and whatever and sent it up to the state, but they're so backlogged and everything that they're not doing anything.
Right, well, that was why they were originally saying they were the ones that were doing the self-certification for 8 and under, and we just adopted their
Right.
plan.
But, so, we're learning a lot, and we have a council working on it. There'll be changes in the next couple of months. And unfortunately, like, we've got 2 people online right now that have short-term rentals, but they're in the 85 to 90% group that does what they're supposed to do. But because of the other 10 or 15%, we have to get a little tougher, and, it is what it is. So,
Yeah. Well, good.
and the only other business after that I have is, and it is a concern, tonight or 4:30 this afternoon, we're meeting up on Roaring Brook Road because there's culverts that are failing in driveways that are washing out other people's properties, but that's not really our issue, but it's going over our road and damaging our road. And I know the way we have everything written saying that it is the responsibility of the property owner to maintain their culverts, but at some point, if they're not, and it's damaging our road, it's costing us more than, and we're gonna have to look at that.
Yeah, I mean, typically, the remedy is if you notify them if they don't correct, we can correct and attach it to, and bill them.
That's.
Is kind of where we're
We
gonna
have-
be
we
at
have
that
to-
point.
We have to, it's almost like my lease, hey, listen, I go into the college and say, this you have to fix. If you don't fix it within 30 days, I'm gonna fix it, and then I'm gonna bill you. So,
But some of the, I don't know this situation, but, oftentimes the source of the debris, travels downstream and causes other people the hardship of having a plug culvert or whatever. It'd be good to find out where the source is and.
yeah, and I agree with that. I'm just saying that the way it's written, it says that you're responsible for your culvert, no matter whose stuff comes down.
Yeah, and
Okay? I think almost on certain roads, the town should be,
well, the issue is from a hydraulic perspective, from the state's point of view, the town is responsible if somebody doesn't replace their culvert and it causes problems. From the state perspective, it was originally designed to not have the town have to go in and start replacing driveway culverts every 20 minutes and everybody keeping their ownership. So, we're gonna have to probably be looking at, how are we gonna address this going forward? Because, if you look at the bulk of the development that happened in this town, it happened in the 70s and 80s, and then, it's continued on from then. But you start looking at all the culverts that were installed then, and they're failing, and then not everybody is willing to spend the money or do the replacements.
or I don't know, once again, they don't know. It's new people. They
Right.
just don't know. Who would think that you're responsible for the culvert at the end of the driveway by the town road?
Right.
I'm not putting blame on anyone.
No, it's not about blame. I'm saying we have to
Yeah.
look at how we're gonna do this going forward, because, is it going to be at some point? Because one of the things that Ricky and I talked about a couple years ago is, do we, if they buy the culvert, we can buy it from our price, and, do we try to find a way to assist?
And that's where I'm going.
the process. We gotta find a way to assist.
The town works with,
You're right.
they are the ones that pay our taxes.
Right. I mean, we would
Our
like to be
bills.
able to help, but we don't want to have the full responsibility for the
Right.
3,000 driveways or whatever number it is.
Right.
I mean, maybe we could help out with some flushing here and there where it's needed, but I think when you're getting into repairs of it, that's open for free enterprise to,
And
let
it's-
the contractor go and buy the culvert, put it in properly, size it to the spec that you require, and let them deal with it.
Hey, and just so you know, and this is like an unwritten thing that not everybody's aware of, and maybe it's something we could talk to Gary about and see about it, do we want to publish it? But if you do have plugged culverts, the fire department runs training and they run their trucks every once in a while, and they have gone and cleaned bridges and flushed culverts before if it needs to. So they will do that as part of their training exercise.
So I think it's just communication,
Yeah.
like talk to Ricky. Ricky could tell you where he's having problems with what roads. He's gonna be able to tell you X amount of culverts. Maybe then Ricky goes to the town manager, says, I'm having problems with these here. Town manager contacts the fire chief. The fire chief on that second Tuesday of the month or whatever, they go out and they start doing that. If that doesn't fix the problem, we give a notice to the owner saying that you have X amount of time, and work with them, or we're gonna have to do it ourselves, and you don't wanna lose your roads, because in
No.
the end, it's gonna cost
No,
more.
and I will say, we are in a much better place than we've been. We've got a lot of ditch cleaning. We've been actually doing much better, but the culverts are reaching their limit in many cases.
So that's enough on that one. I mean, this was supposed to be a quick meeting. But I have to do this here, otherwise I will get blasted that I didn't. Andrew McKenna. Hi, Chet and Jim. I'm reaching out looking for some information on our rising water levels throughout River Road. Now that we have had a few rainstorms lately, we can see where the water level is currently. It only took one day of rain and the water level was at winter meltdown heights along River Road. The lake at the beginning of River Road continues to rise, and I can spot beavers in action daily as I drive by. Further down River Road at the Heath property, the water level is almost at road height. This section of River Road is at times impassable during mud season. In an emergency, a fire truck or ambulance would have extreme difficulty driving through River Road in those road conditions. There are several beaver dams and lodges which are at max capacity along River Road. I don't believe these lodges are within the town's zoning regulations for the number of beavers inhabiting them. Now I got people ratting out the beavers. The beaver population has increased incredibly over the past couple of years within the River Road area and beyond. I have monitored the beaver activity and elevated water levels along River Road for over 22-plus years, and I am concerned for the future of my property becoming just another beaver dam along River Road. I'm wondering what plan of action is underway or on schedule for the near future. Does the town have anyone trapping currently? Nuisance trapping is allowed out of trapping season. I am aware that the town has been waiting for some permits for some dam removal. Seems as though that state permit process began almost 2 years ago. The beavers are not waiting for a permit. They go to work every day and are causing our town and personal property extreme destruction. Looking for some insight regarding the beaver pandemic. Please keep me advised with any updates. Appreciate your time. Regards, Andrew McKenna, 48 Archer Baker Road. So, it was sent to us,
I saw him on the weekend when I was mowing next door.
yeah, so,
Right now, we're hoping, as soon as the state responds to the permit application we've sent in to get the signature from the landowner, who is the state of Vermont, our engineer is in contact with them and is working back and forth. We have the permit application before everybody. We just need people to sign off so that we could start the process.
If this was my business, Chet, I would call every day until I found out why and how come they're not signing it.
And,
Like,
well, that's why I let the engineer start talking to him, because I had finally irritated him. And I
it's
wasn't.
okay, but we have.
I agree.
Residents who are irritated, and we're gonna have.
let's take that email, forward it to the engineers.
And then send it up
And
to them.
also to them, and if the state is irritated with the town manager, then let the engineers start irritating them.
Right. I mean, that's where we are. I mean, I got to the point where, I sent an email, I said, look, we got 7 culverts. If you start at the bottom of the road, 7 culverts that are already inundated with water, like, they're not going to take any more water because it's backing up into the culverts that are under River Road. I said, this is an emergency situation. I need somebody to sign this. I got to go in there and get some cleaning. I need permission to go through that property, to get to the edge of the dam so we could start to lower the water levels, and I got a pretty terse response.
Okay, so I think that would be legal, so we have two
Yeah.
things to go into executive session, because I do have work to do today. So, I'm gonna make a motion to go into executive session for legal at 10:25.
Okay,
All in favor?
favor? Aye.
Aye.